a member of the Indian community in Western New York and would really like to welcome you to this function on behalf of Alankar School of Music. It is that time of the year when people around the world celebrate Easter, Passover, Ramadan, Ram Navami, Baisakhi, all to remember the message of truth, peace, tolerance, and non-violence. Mahatma Gandhi personified truth and non-violence and continued to experiment with them in his daily life. This year marks the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Today, April 13th, also marks the 100th year of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. On behalf of the Indian community, it's really my pleasure and privilege to welcome our chief guest for the function today, Dr. Satish Tripathi and Mrs. Kamlesh Tripathi. And I'd like to now request Dr. Satish Tripathi, the president of UB, to say a few words on this momentous occasion.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to UB. And I want to thank the organizers for really celebrating the life of a great person, 150th anniversary. At the same time, a somber moment of 100th year of Jallianwala Bagh. Actually, it's tomorrow that would be the 100 years of Jallianwala Bagh. And then, of course, we got, no, today actually, and tomorrow is the Baisakhi. And also today is Ram Navami, so a lot of things going on today. It's a very important day. I also want to thank Mahatma ji for really being a leader in the community, leader in terms of keeping our culture, music alive here. I remember about 15 years ago when Kamlesh and I moved here, the first Indian couple that we met were Mamta and her husband Arvind Bhargoji. This was really the first couple here, and we were so impressed with the kind of things that they were doing for the community. The kind of things that were really selfless, in terms of what is important for the community and keeping the tradition. And they have done that, and we really miss Arvindji. So I really want to pay my tribute to Arvindji. I haven't been able to do that publicly, but really I want to remember him today and thank them both for what they do for the community. So as we heard, as I said before, Baisakhi is tomorrow, Ram Navami is today, and we have the 100th anniversary. They said officially about 379 people were shot dead at Jallianwala Bagh, but really the real numbers were in more than 1,000 people. Think about 6 or 7 acres of enclosed area, about 4 or 5 entrances totally walled place, and no place to go. Among the dead, there was also a 7-year-old boy. There were a lot of really young boys killed in that massacre. So really it's ironic that what happened 100 years ago and 50 years before that, a great leader was born who practiced and preached ahimsa, non-violence, and really justice for all. And of course, I'm not going to talk about the life history of Mahatma Gandhi. I wasn't born before he passed away, so I really even haven't seen him. I remember my uncle, who was an attorney. He was much older than my father, and he used to tell me how he saw him in Ayodhya, Faizabad in the 1920s, that he used to come there. Actually, he came twice to Ayodhya. And really, he had a lot of stories to tell, how people used to come from all over the place, go there. I also, the only real association in our schools, and I grew up in a small village, and the schools were not as much resource-centric. The only thing is really, we used to make sure that we spun some khadi. That was part of the routine in the primary school in the villages, and actually we were graded on that, so we have to make sure that we do a good job in spinning the khadi, and actually, of course, we were all taught about Mahatma Gandhi, but really had no experience. And many of you here, I know, I was talking to somebody, you had a chance to even see Gandhiji. So that's something that we never had a chance to see. So I thought maybe I'll spend a couple of minutes to see sort of Mahatma Gandhi's life, and if I can see anything, any pattern there. These days we all look at the patterns, right? I mean, this is all artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if you think about Gandhiji's work and look at early on, it began with very small problems that affected him. Whether it was the train where he was not allowed to sit in a certain class, or whether it was the footpath where he was not allowed to walk. It was a problem that was affecting him, not necessarily everybody else. Everybody else was doing okay. I mean, they thought this is how it is. And so his work initially was really trying to solve his problem. He learned from that, and then he tackled the bigger problem slowly. So if you think about his life, and this is really when he came to India, from South Africa, if you look at his initial phase of life, it's exactly the same pattern. Small problems, try to solve them, learn from that, and if you think about the big movement, whether it's in the late 20s or in 1942 or in between, they were all really things that he had learned from the small problems, things that he thought will work. That learning process is what we need. It's not something that we can solve in one go. We can't take a big problem and say we're going to solve it. It's really taking the problem, experimenting with those problems, small problems, and then really attacking the bigger problem. This is really life. I mean, this is what we should be doing as well, because there's no way we all know everything how to solve the problems. So for me, really, learning, looking at his life, what I feel is that smaller problems are very important to learn. And from those problems, we can solve the larger problems. So it's never too small a problem to start to solve, because the learning we get from there is going to be with us for all our life. Of course, a lot of people have been impacted by Gandhiji, including, of course, Martin Luther King. President Obama talked about it. Einstein used to talk about it. So whether it's the science, whether it's the politics, whether it's really somebody else who is doing freedom movement, and a lot of the freedom movements have been really impacted by what Gandhiji did. So again, I want to thank the organizers for doing this a great event, especially for our young people, especially for us as well, who have really not seen the life of Gandhiji. And I want to welcome you all to UB. Thank you.